Captain Thomas Anderson killed the engines. The hum of the massive Boeing 777 whining down to silence was the loudest sound anyone at Gate C-42 had ever heard. He wasn't pushing back, he wasn't taxiing, and he definitely wasn't taking off, not after what he had just witnessed from the cockpit window. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking." His voice crackled over the intercom, cold as ice. "I've been flying for 30 years, and I have never seen a family treated like criminals for trying to board a flight they paid for. We are not going anywhere until the Jackson family is sitting in row 4, exactly where they belong." The gasps in the cabin were audible. The gate agent turned pale. This wasn't just a delay, it was a mutiny. And the secret that was about to come out would destroy more than just one person's career. It was going to burn the whole airline to the ground. The automated voice of Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport announced the arrival of Flight 294 to London Heathrow. But for Davies and Soraya Jackson, it sounded like a choir of angels. Davies adjusted the strap of his carry-on, glancing down at his 6-year-old son, Lucas, who was clutching a worn-out plush dinosaur. "You ready for the big bird, buddy?" Davies asked, his voice thick with the kind of excitement usually reserved for children. "Is it going to be bigger than our house?" Lucas asked, eyes wide. "Bigger," Soraya laughed, smoothing down the collar of Lucas's Sunday best shirt. "And we're going to be sitting right at the front. Remember what Daddy told you? The seats turn into beds." This wasn't just a vacation. This was the vacation. Davies, a structural engineer who had spent the last 10 years grinding in mid-level management, had finally sold a patent, a specialized joint mechanism for earthquake-resistant bridges. It wasn't buy a private island money, but it was pay off the mortgage and take your wife to Europe first-class money. They had splurged $12,000 on 3 round-trip first-class tickets on Horizon Air, the country's premier carrier. They had checked in online, selected their meals lobster thermidor for Davies, the vegan pasta for Soraya, and chicken nuggets for Lucas, and printed their boarding passes on thick, high-quality paper just to feel the weight of them. "I still can't believe it," Soraya whispered as they approached the chaotic swirl of Gate C-42. "First class. I feel like an imposter. Dave." "You earned it just as much as I did," Davies said, squeezing her hand. 10 years of packing my lunch and driving that beat-up Honda. We belonged there." The gate area was a zoo. It was peak holiday season, and the air was thick with tension, the smell of stale pretzels, and the collective anxiety of 300 people hoping for overhead bin space. But the Jacksons walked with a lighter step. They had priority boarding. They wouldn't have to fight for elbow room. They approached the dedicated lane for first and business class passengers. The carpet here was actually red, a psychological trick. Maybe. But it worked. It made you feel special. Behind the podium stood a woman who looked like she had been carved out of granite. Her name tag read Patricia Gzella, and beneath it, a gold pin indicated she was a senior gate lead. She was typing furiously on her terminal, her acrylic nails clicking like hail on a tin roof. She didn't look up as the Jacksons approached. Davies cleared his throat politely. "Good evening. We're checking in for first class." Patricia Geller stopped typing. She didn't smile. She didn't offer the standard corporate greeting. She slowly raised her head, her eyes scanning Davies, a tall black man in a sharp navy blazer, then Soraya, and finally little Lucas. Her gaze lingered on their clothes, their bags, and then snapped back to Davies's face. "Passes and passports," she said. Her tone was flat, bored, but there was an edge to it, a microaggression Davies had learned to recognize over 40 years of life. It was the tone of someone waiting for a mistake. Davies handed over the documents. "Here you go. Davies, Soraya, and Lucas Jackson." Patricia took them. She didn't scan them immediately. Instead, she opened Davies's passport, looked at the photo, then looked at him. Then she held the page up to the light, squinting at the holographic security strip. She did the same for Soraya's. "Is there a problem?" Soraya asked, her smile faltering. "Hold on," Patricia muttered. Finally, she placed Davies's boarding pass under the scanner. Beep! A harsh, red light flashed on her screen. A low, dissonant tone buzzed from the console. Davies frowned. "That's weird. We printed those this morning." Patricia didn't respond. She typed something, hit enter, and scanned it again. Beep! She let out a loud, theatrical sigh, the kind designed to let everyone in the immediate vicinity know that she was dealing with an incompetence that was beneath her pay grade. She leaned over the podium, looking down at Davies. "Sir," she said, her voice loud enough that the business class passengers behind them stopped talking. "These tickets are invalid." "Invalid?" Davies laughed nervously. "That's impossible. I bought them directly from the Horizon Air website 3 weeks ago. I have the receipt on my phone." "I don't need to see your phone," Patricia snapped. "The system says invalid. It usually means the payment was declined or the transaction was flagged for fraud." The word fraud hung in the air like smoke. The couple behind the Jacksons, an older white couple in expensive cashmere, shifted uncomfortably. Davies felt the heat rising in his neck. "There is no fraud. The money left my account 3 weeks ago." "Look, just type in the confirmation number manually. It's HZ492. "I know how to do my job, sir." Patricia cut him off. She picked up the boarding passes and dropped them on the counter, sliding them back toward him with 2 fingers, as if they were contaminated. "I cannot board you. You need to step aside. You are blocking the priority lane for actual paying customers." "Actual paying customers." Soraya stepped forward, her maternal instinct flaring up. "Excuse me, we paid $12,000 for these seats. You aren't going to speak to us like that." Patricia rolled her eyes and picked up the microphone. "Security to Gate C42. I have a disruptive party refusing to vacate the boarding area." Davies's heart hammered against his ribs. It was happening. The nightmare scenario. He raised his hands, palms open. "We are not being disruptive. We are trying to resolve a mistake. Please, just look at the screen again." "Step aside," Patricia hissed. Davies ushered Soraya and Lucas to the side of the podium, near the glass windows that looked out onto the tarmac. Lucas was clutching his dinosaur so tight his knuckles were white. "Daddy, are we not going?" "We're going, buddy," Davies said, his voice trembling with suppressed rage. "It's just a glitch." But as Davies looked out the window, he saw the pilot in the cockpit of the massive jet. The pilot was looking down at the clipboard, doing his pre-flight checks. Davies felt a sudden, desperate need to bang on the glass, to get someone reasonable to listen. Back at the podium, Patricia Geller was smiling a bright, fake, customer service smile as she waved the cashmere-wearing couple forward. "So sorry about the delay. Mr. and Mrs. Alistair, welcome aboard. Right this way." She scanned their passes. Chime. Green light. Davies pulled out his phone, his fingers shaking as he tried to pull up his banking app. "Soraya, record this," he whispered. "Start recording right now." The gate area was filling up. Economy passengers were lining up now, creating a wall of spectators. Soraya held her phone discreetly against her chest, the camera lens peering out, capturing the scene. Patricia Geller was in her element. She processed 5 more passengers, chatting amiably about the weather in London. Every time she glanced over at the Jacksons, her face hardened into a mask of disdain. Finally, a man in a yellow vest labeled GSE Manager walked up. He was holding a clipboard and looked harried. This was Robert Stone. He walked behind the podium and whispered to Patricia. She pointed a long, manicured finger at Davies. Stone nodded and walked over to the family. He didn't look like a bad man, just a tired one. But he had the weary authority of a bureaucrat who just wanted his shift to end. "Sir, I'm the gate manager," Stone said. "Mrs. Geller tells me you're refusing to leave the secure area after being denied boarding." "That is a lie," Davies said, holding up his phone. "Look at this. Bank of America, $12,400 paid to Horizon Air on November 12th. Transaction cleared. Here is the confirmation email from your airline. Seat 1A, 1B, 2A. Stone looked at the phone screen. He frowned. He looked back at Patricia. "Patty, he's got a confirmation code here." Patricia didn't even look up from her screen. "It's a glitch. Bob. The system flagged the credit card as stolen this morning. I already released the seats." Davies felt the blood drain from his face. "You did what?" "I released the seats," Patricia said loudly, addressing the air. "Policy dictates that if a payment is flagged as fraudulent within 2 hours of departure, the seats go to the standby upgrade list. We have a full flight. I can't fly with empty first-class seats." "You sold our seats," Soraya cried out. "We are standing right here." "You aren't passengers," Patricia spat. "You are suspects, and if you don't lower your voice, you'll be on the no-fly list. Bob, look at this." Davies shoved the phone in Stone's face. "Does this look like a stolen card? It's my name, Davies Jackson. Matches my passport." Stone looked conflicted. He scratched the back of his neck. "Patty, maybe we should call corporate, if he has the receipt." "Bob." Patricia slammed her hand on the counter. The sound echoed through the gate. Silence fell over the crowd. "I have 20 years of experience. I know a fake confirmation when I see one. These people are trying to scam a free ride. Are you going to back me up, or do I have to file a report about you undermining security protocols?" Stone stiffened. He looked at Davies, his eyes apologetic but resigned. He wasn't going to fight her. She had seniority, and she was clearly terrifying to work with. "Sir," Stone said, his voice hardening, "you need to leave the gate area. You can take this up with customer service at the main terminal ticket counter, but you cannot board this flight." "This is illegal," Davies said, his voice breaking. "You are denying us boarding based on a lie. Is it because we're black, is that it? Because the couple before us didn't get scrutinized like this?" "Sir, don't play the race card," Patricia shouted. "That is harassment. Security." 2 TSA officers and a local airport police officer were already walking down the concourse. They had seen the commotion. "Daddy, I'm scared," Lucas whimpered. He dropped his dinosaur. Davies knelt down to pick it up, but the police officer, a burly man named Officer Miller, put a hand on his holster. "Sir, stand up hands where I can see them." "I'm picking up my son's toy," Davies yelled, the humiliation burning him like acid. He slowly stood up, holding the plush T-Rex. "We have done nothing wrong." "You're trespassing," Patricia said smugly. "I've voided their tickets. They have no business here." Officer Miller stepped into Davies's personal space. "Sir, grab your bags. You're coming with us. If you resist, you will be handcuffed in front of your child." Soraya was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face as she kept the camera focused on Patricia. "You are evil," she whispered. "You are absolutely evil." "Have a nice day," Patricia said, turning her back on them to pick up the microphone. "Now boarding Group 1. Group 1 only." The injustice was physical. It felt like a blow to the stomach. Davies looked at the boarding tunnel. The plane was right there. His dream vacation was right there. As the police began to shepherd them away, pushed back against the flow of incoming passengers, Davies saw a man in a suit running toward the gate desk. He looked out of breath. He was carrying a briefcase. "Am I too late?" the man asked Patricia. Patricia's face transformed. It melted into a look of pure, sycophantic adoration. "Oh, Mr. Sterling. No, not at all. We held the seats for you. We actually had a cancellation just now. 1A and 1B are all yours, and we have the bulkhead for your assistant." Davies stopped dead in his tracks. He planted his feet. "Did you hear that?" Davies shouted to Officer Miller. "Did you hear that she gave our seats to him? She knew he was coming. It wasn't fraud. She bumped us for a VIP." Officer Miller pushed Davies forward. "Keep moving, sir." "No," Davies screamed. "That's my seat." She lied to the police. She filed a false report. The crowd was rumbling now. A young woman with blue hair, holding an economy ticket, stepped out of line. "I heard it too," she shouted. "She just gave their seats away. That's messed up. Back in line," Patricia barked, "or you're not flying either." It was chaos, but in the midst of the noise, no one noticed that the boarding bridge door, the door leading to the plane, had opened. Standing there, wearing a hat with gold scrambling on the brim and 4 stripes on his shoulder epaulets, was Captain Thomas Anderson. He was a tall man, greying at the temples, with the posture of a former military pilot. He held a coffee cup in one hand. He had come up to check on the fuel load paperwork. He watched the police shoving a crying family away. He saw the VIP Mr. Sterling smirking as he took his boarding pass. And he saw Patricia Geller's triumphant sneer. Captain Anderson walked out of the jet bridge. He didn't go to the desk. He walked straight into the middle of the concourse, blocking the path of the police officer. "Officer," Anderson said. His voice was quiet, baritone, and commanded absolute authority. Officer Miller stopped. "Captain, we're just clearing a disturbance." "The only disturbance I see," Anderson said, looking directly at Patricia Geller, "is my ground staff lying to federal officers." Patricia froze. The color drained from her face faster than water from a cracked tub. "Captain Anderson," she stammered, "we have a security issue. These passengers. I've been listening on the comms. Patricia." Anderson lied. He hadn't been listening, but he knew a rat when he saw one. He looked at Davies. "Sir, let me see your phone." Officer Miller hesitated, then stepped back. Davies, shaking, handed his phone to the pilot. Anderson looked at the receipt. He looked at the date. Then he looked at Mr. Sterling, who was trying to sneak down the jet bridge. "Hey," Anderson barked at the VIP. "Stop right there." Sterling turned around. "I have a flight to catch." "Captain, I'm a personal friend of the CEO." "I don't care if you're the ghost of the Wright brothers," Anderson said. "Get off my jet bridge." He turned back to the gate agent. The entire terminal was silent. Even the babies seemed to stop crying. "Patricia," Anderson said, his voice projecting so everyone could hear, "why did you mark this man's ticket as fraudulent 2 minutes before Mr. Sterling arrived?" I didn't. Patricia stuttered. The system doesn't lie, Anderson said, but people do. And I'm not flying this plane until I find out which one it is. He pulled out his radio. Tower, this is Horizon 294. Cancel our pushback clearance. We have a situation at the gate. Tell the ground crew to kill the tug. We aren't going anywhere. The silence in Gate C-42 was heavy, a physical weight that pressed down on everyone present. It was the kind of silence usually reserved for courtrooms right before a verdict is read. Captain Thomas Anderson stood like a monolith between the police officers and the jet bridge. He hadn't raised his voice, but his presence filled the space. He took a slow sip of his coffee, his eyes never leaving Patricia Geller. I'm waiting. Patricia, Anderson said calmly. Why did you override a paid first-class fare for a standby passenger? Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish on a dock. Captain, I don't report to you. I report to station management. And you are delaying this flight. That is a federal offense. You are interfering with ground operations. And you are interfering with my moral compass. Anderson shot back. He turned to the police officer. Officer Miller, release this man. Now. Miller looked from the captain to the gate agent. The hierarchy of authority was blurring. Technically, on the ground, the police had jurisdiction, but in the aviation world, the captain is God. If the captain says the plane doesn't move, the plane doesn't move. And if the plane doesn't move, nobody's going to London. Sir, Miller said to Davies, stepping back and lowering his hand from Davies's arm. Stay put. We're going to sort this out. Sort this out. Richard Sterling, the man in the expensive suit who had stolen the seats, scoffed. He walked back up the jet bridge, his face flushed with indignation. He checked his Rolex, a gold Submariner that probably cost more than Davies's car. Captain, this is ridiculous. I have a meeting with the Minister of Finance in London in 10 hours. If you don't get in that cockpit and fly this plane, I will personally ensure you never fly a kite again, let alone a Boeing 777. Anderson looked at Sterling with the mild curiosity one might show a bug on a windshield. Mr. Sterling, is it you seem to be under the impression that I work for you? I work for the safety and integrity of this aircraft, and right now, the integrity of this flight has been compromised by theft. Theft, Sterling laughed, a harsh, barking sound. I paid for an upgrade. No, Anderson said, pointing a finger at Davies. He paid. You just showed up. And because you have a platinum card and probably bought Patricia here a nice Christmas gift last year, she decided to play Robin Hood in reverse. Rob from the poor or simply the people she doesn't respect, and give to the rich. This is preposterous, Patricia shrieked. She was typing furiously on her computer again. I am calling the station manager. I am calling security control. I want this pilot removed for erratic behavior. Go ahead, Anderson said. He walked over to the podium, leaned over, and picked up the PA microphone. Patricia tried to grab it. You can't touch that. Anderson gently but firmly blocked her hand. He clicked the button. His voice boomed through the entire terminal, not just the gate area. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Anderson from Flight 294. We are currently in a holding pattern at the gate. We have a situation where a family of 3 has been defrauded of their tickets by our gate staff to make room for a VIP. I am refusing to fly this aircraft until the Jackson family is reinstated to their rightful seats. If you are angry about the delay, I suggest you direct your frustration toward the podium, not the cockpit. Thank you for your patience." The terminal erupted. People who were just walking by stopped to listen. The passengers for Flight 294, who had been grumbling about the wait, suddenly turned their animosity toward Patricia and Sterling. "That's right!" shouted the woman with blue hair, who was still recording on her phone. She turned the camera toward the crowd. "Did you guys hear that the captain is a hero? They kicked this family off for a rich guy. Let them board," a man in the back chanted. "Let them board! Let them board!" The chant started low but grew quickly. It was the sound of mob justice finding a target. Patricia was shaking. She picked up the phone, her hands trembling so badly she dropped the receiver twice. "Get me ops. Get me the director, now." "It's an emergency." Davies Jackson stood there, clutching his son's hand, tears stinging his eyes. He had spent his whole life keeping his head down, following the rules, trying not to make waves. He had expected to be crushed today. He had expected to go home and tell his son that the world just wasn't fair. He hadn't expected a white man in a pilot's uniform to risk his career for him. "Thank you," Davies whispered, looking at Anderson. Anderson winked. "Don't thank me yet. We still have to get you to London." Richard Sterling was pacing back and forth, his face turning a shade of purple that matched his tie. He pulled out a sleek black smartphone and dialed a number. "Get me the CEO. Yes, wake him up. I don't care what time it is. I'm stuck at DFW with a lunatic pilot." Meanwhile, Robert Stone, the weary gate manager, was looking at the screen. He saw the audit trail. He saw exactly what Patricia had done, and he saw the crowd. He realized that if he didn't distance himself from Patricia right now, he was going to go down with her. "Patty," Stone whispered, "you need to fix this." "Shut up." "Bob," she hissed. "I'm handling it. Security is bringing the team. They'll drag the captain off, put a reserve pilot in, and we'll be gone in an hour. You can't drag a captain off his own plane unless he's incapacitated," Stone said. "He's not drunk. He's not sick. He's protesting. That's a union issue. If you touch him, the union will ground every flight on the East Coast." Patricia stopped typing. The color left her face again. She hadn't thought about the union. Suddenly, the glass doors of the jet bridge hissed open again. The first officer, a young woman named Rebecca Lewis, poked her head out. "Cap," she called out. "We're burning a PU fuel. Dispatch is asking why we haven't pushed. And, why is hashtag Boycott Horizon Air trending on Twitter?" Anderson smiled grimly. "Tell dispatch we have a mechanical failure." "Rebecca." "Mechanical?" she asked, confused. "Everything is green across the board." Anderson tapped his chest, right over his heart. "It's a failure of the heart. Rebecca, the airline's heart isn't working. We can't fly without it." Rebecca looked at the family. She looked at Patricia. A slow smile spread across her face. She nodded. "Copy that. Cap. Mechanical failure. Heart pump malfunction. I'll log it." She disappeared back into the plane. The crowd cheered again. But the victory was short-lived. From the far end of the concourse, a group of 5 people in suits was marching towards them, flanked by 2 more police officers. Leading the pack was a man Davies recognized from LinkedIn, Marcus Thorne, the regional director of operations for Horizon Air. He was known as the Hatchet because he fired people with the casual indifference of someone swatting a fly. The crowd parted for Thorne. He walked straight up to the podium, ignoring Davies, ignoring the police, and looking straight at Patricia. "Report," Thorne barked. Patricia straightened up, sensing her salvation. "Mr. Thorne, thank God. Captain Anderson has mutinied. He is refusing to fly. He is making false accusations over the PA system. He is inciting a riot." Thorne turned his cold, shark-like eyes to Anderson. "Is this true, Tom? I am refusing to fly an aircraft that is knowingly transporting stolen goods." Anderson said calmly, "Stolen goods." Thorne raised an eyebrow. "These seats," Anderson pointed to the boarding pass in Sterling's hand. "They belong to the Jackson family. Patricia Geller manually defrauded their transaction to accommodate Mr. Sterling here. That is theft. It is a violation of the contract of carriage, and it is a violation of federal laws regarding discriminatory practices in air travel." Thorne looked at Sterling. "Richard, good to see you." "Marcus," Sterling nodded, relaxing instantly. "Get this bus moving. I'm losing money by the minute." Thorne turned to Anderson. "Tom, you're a good pilot, but you're emotional. We have a procedure for overbooked flights." "It wasn't overbooked," Anderson said. "It was hijacked." Thorne sighed. He stepped closer to Anderson, lowering his voice so the crowd couldn't hear. "Tom, look at me. Sterling is a platinum key investor. He owns a stake in the fuel supplier we use. If he wants a seat, he gets a seat. We'll refund the family. We'll give them vouchers. Double the value. But this plane leaves in 10 minutes, with Sterling on it, and you flying it. Or you turn in your wings right now, pension and all." It was the ultimatum, the hard reality of the corporate world. Money talks, and morality walks. Davies heard it. He stepped forward. "Captain," he said, his voice trembling. "It's okay. We'll take the vouchers. Don't lose your job for us. Please. It's not worth it." Soraya grabbed Davies's arm. "Dave." "It's not worth it," Davies repeated, looking at Anderson with profound gratitude and sadness. "You've done enough. You showed them. That's enough." Anderson looked at Davies. He looked at the little boy, Lucas, holding his dinosaur. He looked at the fear in their eyes, the learned fear of people who know that the system is designed to crush them if they fight too hard. Then Anderson looked at Thorne. "You know, Marcus," Anderson said, his voice loud enough for the camera phones to pick up. "I've got 3 months until mandatory retirement. My pension is fully vested. My house is paid off. And my wife left me 6 years ago because I worked too much." He took off his hat. He brushed a speck of dust off the brim. "I don't have anything to lose," Anderson said. "But you do." Anderson turned to the crowd. "Does anyone here have a Wi-Fi hotspot? I need to upload the cockpit voice recorder audio to the cloud. I think the FAA would be very interested to hear Mrs. Geller admitting to fraud on the ground channel." Patricia gasped. You were recording." Anderson hadn't been recording. Cockpit voice recorders, CVR, only record loops, and usually only when the engines are running or the checklist is active. But Patricia didn't know the technical specs of a CVR on the ground. "Bluff," Thorne hissed. "He's bluffing." "Am I?" Anderson pulled his phone out. "Rebecca," he shouted toward the plane. "Bring me the tablet with the comms log." The first officer reappeared, holding an iPad. She ran down the jet bridge and handed it to Anderson. Anderson tapped the screen. He wasn't looking at audio logs. He was looking at the reservation modification history, the internal log that every airline system keeps, tracking every keystroke made by an agent. "Let's see." Anderson read from the screen. Scrolling down. 16:42 p.m. User PGELLAR. Accessed PNRHZ-492. Payment status valid. 16:43 p.m. User PGeller manually changed status to flagged fraud. Reason code suspicious activity. 16:44 p.m. User Pigella released seats 1A, 1B, 2A. 16:45 p.m. User PGELLAR assigned seats to passenger Sterling, Richard. Override code 5IP-REQ. The silence returned. But this time, it was the silence of a trap snapping shut. Anderson turned the iPad around so Thorne could see it. "There is no credit card glitch, Marcus," Anderson said. "There is no bank error. She manually flagged a valid payment as fraud because she saw Mr. Sterling coming down the hall. That is wire fraud. It crossed state lines. It's a felony." Anderson looked at Patricia. "And since you used the airline's computer system to do it, it's also computer tampering." Patricia Geller slumped against the podium. The granite woman was crumbling into dust. Sterling looked at the iPad, then at Thorne. "Marcus, fix this." Thorne looked at the log. He looked at the hundreds of phones recording him. He looked at the police officers, whose body language had shifted. They were no longer guarding the gate. They were watching the crime scene. Thorne was a shark, and sharks know when to cut bait. "Patricia," Thorne said, his voice devoid of warmth. "Is this accurate? Mr. Thorne, we always prioritize. Did you falsify a payment record?" Thorne demanded, his voice rising. "I did it for the airline," Patricia cried. "Mr. Sterling is a VIP." "You committed a felony," Thorne said, stepping back from her as if she were contagious. "And you implicated the airline in a discrimination suit." Thorne turned to the police officer. "Officer, I would like to file a complaint against this employee for unauthorized use of company property and fraud." Patricia's jaw dropped. "Marcus, you told us last week to prioritize high-value clients at all costs, not by breaking the law." Thorne lied smoothly. He turned to Sterling. "Richard, I'm afraid I can't let you fly on those tickets. They are proceeds of a crime. You'll have to wait for the next flight." "You have got to be kidding me," Sterling roared. "I will buy this airline and fire you." "You can try," Anderson interjected. "But right now, you're holding a stolen boarding pass." Officer Miller stepped forward. He looked at Sterling. "Sir, I'm going to need you to hand over that pass and step out of the secure area. You are currently in possession of stolen property." The crowd erupted. It was a roar of vindication. Lucas clapped his hands, not fully understanding, but knowing the bad man was losing. Sterling threw the boarding pass on the floor. "This is a joke, a bad joke," he stormed off, pushing through the crowd, shielding his face from the cameras. Thorne turned to Davies and Soraya. He put on his best corporate smile. "Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, on behalf of Horizon Air, I am deeply shocked by the rogue actions of this employee. We would like to reinstate your tickets immediately, and, of course, refund the cost of your flight entirely. Consider it a gesture of goodwill." Davies looked at Thorne. He knew exactly what Thorne was doing, saving his own skin. But Davies didn't care about Thorne. He cared about his dignity, and he cared about the man standing next to him. Davies turned to Captain Anderson. He extended his hand. "Captain," Davies said, "we'll fly, but only if you're flying us." Anderson gripped Davies's hand. "It would be my honor." "Sir." The flight to London was smooth, but the turbulence on the ground was just beginning. While the Jackson family slept in lie-flat seats in row 1, sipping champagne and eating warm cookies. The video of the incident at Gate C-42 was racking up millions of views. By the time Flight 294 touched down at Heathrow, the hashtag Captain Anderson was trending worldwide, right alongside #BoycottHorizonAir. But the story wasn't over. The karma that was coming for Patricia Geller and Richard Sterling was about to hit with the force of a freight train. 2 days later, back in Dallas, the internal investigation began. Horizon Air's headquarters was a glass tower of anxiety. The PR department was in meltdown mode. But the real action was happening in the HR tribunal room on the 40th floor. Patricia Geller sat at a long metal table. She looked smaller without her podium. She wasn't wearing her uniform. Beside her was a union representative who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Across the table sat the Vice President of Human Resources, a serious woman named Veronica Sharp, and the Chief Legal Officer. "Ms. Geller," Sharp began, sliding a thick file across the table. "We have reviewed the logs. We have reviewed the security footage. We have reviewed the witness statements from the police and Captain Anderson." "I was doing my job," Patricia said, her voice shrill. "I was maximizing revenue. Sterling spends 50 grand a year with us. That family, they bought discount first-class tickets on a promo code. It's business. It's fraud," Sharp corrected. "But that's not why we are here today. We dug a little deeper. Patricia." Sharp opened a second file. "After the incident went viral, we received 42 emails from other passengers who missed flights, lost seats, or were downgraded at Gate C-42 over the last 5 years." Patricia swallowed hard. "We audited your terminal history." Sharp continued. "It seems this wasn't a one-time event. We found a pattern. Specifically, a pattern of technical glitches affecting passengers with ethnic-sounding names or those traveling on discounted fares. Coincidentally happening right when a Platinum member needed a seat." Sharp projected a spreadsheet onto the wall monitor. It was a sea of red. 38 times, Sharp said. 38 times you manually overrode a valid ticket, claimed a payment error, and resold the seat to a business traveler. In 12 of those cases, you accepted tips, gift cards, cash, vouchers from the travelers you bumped up. That's standard practice, Patricia stammered. "Tips for good service. It's bribery," the legal officer said, "and it's grand larceny. You were stealing seats and selling them for kickbacks." The union rep closed his notebook. "Patricia, I can't defend this. The union doesn't protect criminal activity." "You can't fire me," Patricia screamed. "I know where the bodies are buried. Thorne knew. Thorne told us to be aggressive." "Mr. Thorne has been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation," Sharp said coldly. "But you are terminated effective immediately, and we are turning this file over to the district attorney. They are very interested in the wire fraud aspect." Patricia stood up, knocking her chair over. "I gave my life to this airline, and you took the dignity of our passengers." Sharp said, "Please hand over your badge." Security escorted Patricia out of the building as she walked out the front doors, carrying a cardboard box with her personal items. A news van was waiting. The reporter shoved a microphone in her face. "Ms. Geller, is it true you targeted minority families? Do you have a comment on the Jackson family?" Patricia shielded her face with a folder and ran toward the parking garage. The woman of granite had cracked completely. Meanwhile, in a penthouse in downtown Dallas, Richard Sterling was having a very bad morning. He was on a conference call with the board of directors of his own company, Sterling Logistics. "Richard," the chairman of the board said, his voice echoing through the speakerphone. "Have you seen the stock price this morning?" "It's a fluctuation," Sterling said, sweating. "It'll bounce back." "It's down 12%, the chairman said. Our biggest client, Global Tech, just cancelled their contract. They said they cannot be associated with a brand whose CEO is caught on 4K video hurling racial abuse and trying to bribe an airline pilot. I didn't hurl racial abuse, Sterling protested. I just wanted my seat. You called the pilot a lunatic and the family suspects on the audio recording that was leaked, the chairman said. It's a PR nightmare. Richard, the video has 40 million views. You are the face of entitlement. I can fix this, Sterling pleaded. I'll issue an apology. I'll make a donation. It's too late, the chairman said. The board has voted. We are triggering the morality clause in your contract. You are out as CEO, effective immediately. You can't do that. I built this company, and you destroyed its reputation in 5 minutes at an airport gate, the chairman said. Security will escort you out. Do not touch your computer. The line went dead. Sterling sat in his Italian leather chair, staring at the blank wall. He had lost his job. He had lost his reputation. And because of the morality clause, he was losing his severance package. The phone rang again. It was his wife. Richard. She sounded icy. I saw the video. And I saw the way you looked at that gate agent. The internet is saying you two had a history. Is that why you were flying to London? Was she supposed to meet you there next week? Honey, no. That's crazy internet rumors. My lawyer will be in touch, she said. Click. The karma wasn't just hitting back. It was nuking the site from orbit. Back in London, the Jacksons were oblivious to the carnage back home. They were sitting in a park near Buckingham Palace. Lucas was chasing pigeons. Davies and Soraya were eating ice cream. Davies's phone buzzed. It was an email from Horizon Air. Dear Mr. Jackson, we sincerely apologize for the events at DFW. As a token of our regret, and to thank you for your patience, we have refunded your tickets in full, $12,400. Additionally, we have credited your account with lifetime platinum status and 1 million frequent flyer miles. Furthermore, Captain Anderson has requested that we inform you that he will be piloting your return flight personally. He looks forward to seeing you. Davies handed the phone to Soraya. She read it and smiled, tears welling up again. We won, Dave, she said. Yeah, Davies said, watching his son run free in the sunshine. We did, but only because one man decided to stop the engine. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but the wheels of the internet spin at the speed of light. While Davies and Soraya were navigating the London Underground back in the United States, the fallout from Gate C-42 had mutated into a full-blown cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just a story about a plane ticket anymore. It became a symbol of everything wrong with the corporate machine, the entitlement of the wealthy, the invisibility of the working class, and the systemic bias that Patricia Geller had weaponized for years. The district attorney of Dallas County, Evelyn Price, was not a woman to miss a political layup. With the evidence Captain Anderson had provided, specifically the timestamps showing the deliberate falsification of federal aviation records, she announced a press conference on the steps of the courthouse. We are charging Patricia Geller with 4 counts of wire fraud, 1 count of computer tampering in the first degree, and 1 count of filing a false police report, Price announced to a sea of microphones. Furthermore, we are investigating Mr. Richard Sterling for conspiracy to commit fraud and bribery of a corporate official. The official in question was Patricia. The investigation revealed that over the last 3 years, Sterling had transferred consulting fees to a shell account owned by Patricia's husband. It was a kickback scheme. Sterling got guaranteed upgrades and waivers on baggage fees for his entire logistics fleet. And Patricia got a nice side income. The courtroom drama that followed was televised. Patricia, now out on bail and looking haggard, tried to plead ignorance. Her lawyer argued that she was under immense pressure from Horizon Air management to prioritize high-value assets like Sterling. Then came the star witness. It wasn't Captain Anderson, it was Marcus Thorne. In a twist that shocked the gallery, Horizon Air had cut a deal to save the airline from a federal discrimination lawsuit that could cost them billions. They threw Thorne to the wolves. He was fired without severance and subpoenaed to testify. On the stand, Thorne looked like a deflated balloon. The arrogance was gone. "Did you instruct Ms. Geller to remove the Jackson family?" the prosecutor asked. "Not specifically," Thorne mumbled, "but the culture I enforced, the metrics I set, they encouraged aggressive revenue protection. If a VIP wanted a seat, the agents knew they had to make it happen or their performance review would suffer. So you created a system where fraud was the only way to succeed. I suppose you could say that." The jury didn't need long. Patricia Geller was found guilty on all counts. The judge, clearly disgusted by the abuse of power, sentenced her to 5 years in federal prison. The woman who had wielded her gate podium like a throne would now be told when to eat, sleep, and sit for the next half-decade. But the public humiliation of Richard Sterling was even more visceral. Sterling, having been ousted from his company and facing his own legal battles, tried to flee the scrutiny. He put his Dallas penthouse on the market and booked a flight to the Cayman Islands, hoping to hide out until the heat died down. He arrived at DFW Airport, wearing sunglasses and a hoodie, trying to be incognito. He went to the check-in counter of a different airline, Oceanic Airways. He handed over his passport. The young agent behind the counter typed in his name. Her eyes went wide. She looked at him, then at the screen, then back at him. "Mr. Sterling?" she asked, her voice carrying. "Shh, yes. Just check me in," he whispered. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, loud enough for the line to hear. "I can't check you in. You've been placed on the national no-fly list pending your bribery trial. And, well, our airline has also internally blacklisted you. We don't serve passengers who abuse ground staff." Sterling froze. "You can't do this. I have rights. I need to leave." "You can take a bus," a voice called out from the queue. Sterling turned to see a crowd of people recognizing him. Phones came out. The flashes started. "Hey, it's the VIP," someone shouted. "Where's your private jet now?" "Richie." Sterling abandoned his luggage and ran out of the terminal, pursued by the paparazzi. The video of him fleeing, tripping over a curb, and losing his sunglasses went viral within the hour. The man who thought he owned the sky was now grounded, permanently, back in London. Davies saw the news on a TV in a pub. He watched Sterling running away. He took a sip of his Guinness, a small, satisfied smile playing on his lips. "Karma," he whispered. "It doesn't miss." While the villains were meeting their fate, Captain Thomas Anderson was facing a different kind of storm. Inside Horizon Air, the atmosphere was toxic, while the public hailed him as a hero. The Captain America of the skies, middle management viewed him as a traitor. He had exposed the company's dirty laundry. He had embarrassed the executives. He was called into a meeting with the new interim CEO, Jessica Vance, a woman brought in to clean up the PR mess. "Captain Anderson," Vance said, sitting in a stark, modern office. We appreciate your integrity. The public loves you. Ticket sales are actually up 3% because people think we're the ethical airline now." "I'm glad to hear it," Anderson said, his face impassive. "However," Vance continued, "you violated 7 different operational protocols. You refused a direct order from a regional director. You utilized the PA system for unauthorized announcements. In a normal world, I would fire you. But this isn't a normal world, is it?" Anderson leaned back. "If you fire me, the stock tanks, the union strikes, and you lose your ethical branding." Vance sighed. She knew he was right. "So, here is the offer. We want you to retire early, full benefits, a hefty consulting package. We'll throw a parade, but you stop flying. We need the cowboy pilot out of the cockpit before you decide to ground another plane for a moral crusade." Anderson looked out the window at the tarmac, watching the planes line up for takeoff. He had spent 40 years in the sky. He loved the thrust of the engines, the view from 35,000 feet, the responsibility of bringing souls safely to their destination. "I'll retire," Anderson said, "on one condition. Name it. I fly the Jacksons home. That's my last flight. After that, you can have my wings." Vance nodded. "Done." The news of Captain Anderson's final flight spread through the aviation community. It wasn't just a flight. It was a pilgrimage. Ground crews at Heathrow were fighting for the shift service, Flight 295, back to Dallas. Other pilots were requesting the jump seat, just to shake his hand. On the day of the return flight, the mood at Heathrow Terminal 5 was electric when Davies, Soraya, and Lucas arrived at the gate. They weren't met with suspicion. They were met with a red carpet, literally. The Heathrow ground staff had rolled out a small section of red carpet leading to the jet bridge. A new gate agent, a cheerful young man named Sam, greeted them. "Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, it is an honor. Captain Anderson is waiting for you on board." They boarded first, as they turned left into the first-class cabin. They saw him. Captain Anderson was standing by the cockpit door. He looked sharper than ever, his uniform pressed to perfection, but his eyes were warm. "Welcome back," Anderson said. Lucas ran forward. "Captain Tom." Anderson knelt down, ignoring the stiffness in his knees. "Hey there, co-pilot. Did you keep your dinosaur safe?" "Yeah, he saw the Queen." Lucas beamed. Anderson laughed. He stood up and shook Davies's hand. "Ready to go home?" "Ready," Davies said. "Thank you for everything." "Don't mention it," Anderson said. "Today is a good day for flying." As the passengers boarded, a strange thing happened. Usually, people walk past the cockpit without looking. Today, every single passenger stopped. "Thank you, Captain," an old lady said. "Good job, man," a teenager in a hoodie said, fist-bumping him. "You did the right thing," a businessman said. Anderson nodded to each of them. Humbled. He realized that he hadn't just saved a family's vacation. He had restored a little bit of faith in the idea that someone, somewhere, was looking out for the little guy. He climbed into the left seat, put on his headset, and keyed the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. This is a special flight for me. It's my last one, and I'm proud to be sharing it with the Jackson family in row 1. We're expecting smooth air all the way to Dallas. Let's go home." As Flight 295 began its descent toward Dallas-Fort Worth, the radio crackled to life. "Horizon 295. This is DFW Tower. Captain Anderson, the airport authority has granted a special request. You are cleared for a low-pass flyby of the tower before entering the pattern." It was a rare honor, usually reserved for military jets or retiring legends. Anderson's voice cracked slightly. "Copy that. Tower, honored." He banked the massive 777, bringing it down to 1,000 feet. Passengers pressed their faces against the windows, watching the airport rush by below. They could see the fire trucks lining the taxiway, water cannons ready. Anderson touched the bird down so softly it felt like a sigh. As they taxied, two massive arcs of water created a rainbow over the fuselage, a traditional water salute. Inside the cabin, the applause began in economy and rolled forward like a wave. It was a standing ovation. When the doors opened, Anderson didn't leave. He waited by the cockpit. Davies, Soraya, and Lucas approached, the last to disembark. Davies reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box from London. "Captain," Davies said, "my son picked this out." Anderson opened it. Inside was a silver compass, engraved on the back, "True North, the Jackson family." Anderson blinked back tears. "I'll treasure this." They walked out of the jet bridge to a gate area, packed not with angry travelers, but with supporters holding signs, "Justice for the Jacksons." Standing awkwardly near the back was Officer Miller, the policeman who had almost arrested Davies days earlier. He stepped forward, hat in hand. "Mr. Jackson," Miller said, looking at his feet. "I was wrong. I listened to the wrong person. I should have asked questions first. I'm sorry." Davies looked at the officer and saw a man trying to be better. He extended his hand. Apology accepted. As they headed toward baggage claim, the airport televisions were flashing a new headline. "Horizon Air announces Jackson Anderson rule. Bans removal of seated passengers for VIPs." The nightmare had forced the industry to change. They stepped out into the Texas heat, the ordeal finally over. "Dad," Lucas asked as they loaded their bags into the car, "I don't want to be an engineer anymore." "Oh," Davies smiled, starting the engine. "I want to be a pilot," Lucas said, clutching his dinosaur. "Like Captain Tom. I want to stop the bad guys." Davies looked at Soraya, who was beaming. "That sounds like a good plan, son." They drove off, leaving the airport behind, but taking the lesson with them sometimes. You have to stop the engine to really get somewhere. What Captain Anderson did that day went against every corporate rule in the book. He risked his pension, his reputation, and his freedom. But he proved that one person, standing firm in the face of injustice, can shift the entire world on its axis. Patricia Geller and Richard Sterling thought their power made them untouchable, but they forgot that authority, without morality, is just bullying, and eventually. Someone stands up to a bully. The Jackson family got their vacation, but more importantly, they got their dignity back, and the Jackson-Anderson rule ensures that no family will ever have to go through that humiliation again. If this story moved you, or if you've ever felt like the little guy fighting a giant system, hit that like button. It really helps get these stories out to more people. What would you have done if you were Captain Anderson? Would you have risked your career or played it safe? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want more stories about real-life karma, heroic standoffs, and justice being served, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.